if you had told me that Dermott, Hall, and Mikheyev would be the main goal scorers on a goalie, and then Hyman was like, I would have believed you about Hyman with the empty net. That's what he does.
That's the most believable one.
It is the most believable one. Hall, Mikheyev, Dermott in the same game carrying this team. Sort of surprising.
Well, and earlier in the shift, I forgot to mention this in the LFR, but earlier in the shift where Dermott scored, I was screaming at him to shoot because he had a wide open look and he decided not that wide open. And it turns out he was right. I can't help but cheer for this guy. We already talked about how he's a puppy dog, but I think he really loves being a Leaf. And you look at his situation and the contract talks and how he's been sort of in and out of the lineup. I can't help but wonder if it was a different person in a different market, if he would already have another team. But he doesn't. It's Travis Dermott and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think this guy wants to win with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And let's be frank, like all the hype coming into the season surrounding Mikko Lehtinen, all the high hopes that people have for Rasmus Sandin. I mean, it's not fair. We've seen 5.5 minutes of Rasmus Sandin, but right now, Travis Dermott is at worst the Leafs' sixth best defenseman. He should be in the top six. I'd probably have him higher than sixth. So it's great to see him finally get one, a guy who's always cheering on his teammates. And they had a chance to give it right back to him, you know?
And I want to talk a little more about Justin Hall's game. Like we kind of did mention it in the earlier segment, but Justin Hall has been, especially when he got teamed up with Muzzin last year, has become a revelation. Now we knew that he was one of the guys on the right side that could get a puck out of the zone. Zone exits on the right side were a real problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs for a long time. I remember the first two games that Hall scored was like on the dad's trip. His dad was there for both of them, 2 games in a row, pretty sweet. And then he went back down. And even though he had good underlying numbers and clearly from the eye test was making smart choices most of the time when he was allowed in the lineup, which was rare under Mike Babcock, Mike Babcock just didn't like him and wouldn't play him.
For no reason.
And it's funny. For no reason.
Yeah.
And one of the great
justified.
things, well, of course, and you look at the play now and how good he's been since. And it's interesting that basically since Sheldon Keefe took over, Justin Hall's been this guy. And he's the ultimate late bloomer. He's like 29, 30 years old. And
drafted 2010.
So like this is a guy who really fought and stuck it out and shouldn't be with the Leafs still. Should have lost him on waivers. Should have probably never re-signed him. Should have this, should have that. And here he is. He's got his 3-year extension, but which he's in the first year of, and he's playing like they were hoping he would. Now, towards the end of last season, he wasn't after he signed that extension, but it seems like he's kind of settled in with Jake Muzzin. And honestly, Justin Hall's career took off when Sheldon Keefe took over as the coach. He did.
Especially with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's believed in him for a long time. And also, as long as we're on this conversation, Kyle Dubas. And Dubas has done a good job pillaging, actually, Chicago Blackhawks castoffs, because there was a goal the other night in a Calgary Flames game, and they go, Byron Frazee gives the Flames the lead. And I went, there is a name I haven't heard in a very long time. But 4th-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks in 2009, and he goes through the ECHL, never really makes it. The Blackhawks just cast him aside. And he was an ECHL loan to the Marlies when Dubas got him. Then he ends up signing him to an NHL contract, and I think they got about 100 games NHL service out of him. That's wonderful. Justin Hall is a second-rounder from 2010. Mm-hmm. Here's how everyone got it wrong on Justin Hall. He was a second-rounder who the Blackhawks let walk. Mike Babcock could not find any use for him. And they announced on the broadcast a few games ago, and I didn't realize this, he was I think it was U of Minnesota teammate of Travis Boyd, but not just teammate, line mate. You know why they were line mates? Because he was a forward. Everyone got it wrong with this guy, including myself, because I didn't even think he was one of the Leafs' top 6. And it wasn't because of the way he played, I suppose. It was the way he was used. We're now knowing. I still have not forgiven Mike Babcock for a lot of things, but near the top of the list is the Hall and Ozhiganov pairing.
Oh,
how dare you? How dare you make me watch that? How dare you?
Well, and people say, and they're right, how do you justify hiring a coach that said, no, I'm taking Ozhiganov over Hall for 82 games?
It's not even hiring. There were so many times.
Forget the off-ice stuff, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. Beyond the off-ice stuff, this was a coach who, no matter how many times they said, oh, we're aligned. This was a coach who very obviously and publicly undercut his general manager, Reed, his boss, at every turn. He gives up 3 very valuable assets to get Jake Muzzin. And the first comment out of the coach's mouth is that he doesn't shoot right-handed. You know what I mean? Fine. You want Nick Petan in the lineup? I'll throw Nick stupid Petan in the stupid lineup. And look, it failed because I told you it would fail. Oh, you signed Jason Spezza? Great. I never wanted him. Here's Nick Shore. Like, just so many examples of the coach undercutting his general manager, seemingly on purpose. Now, there's actual collaboration in there. Is Sheldon Keefe a better coach than Mike Babcock? I can't tell you. I am not enough of a #hockey man to tell you. What I can tell you is he is a far better coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He doesn't undercut his boss. Behind the scenes, I'm sure they argue. I'm sure they have hellfire and brimstone screaming match.
I've heard they have, actually.
Good. So do we.
They have.
So do we. It's good for you. Damn it. But, like, I don't think Adam or Jesse are stupid. At the end of it, I'm like, let's get a beer. Oh, wait, we can't because of COVID. Or something like that. You know what I mean? They actually have a coach who listens to and collaborates with the general manager, and it's given opportunities to guys like Justin Hall. They weren't wrong on him. This was a guy who I thought, based on the way he played because of the way he was used, I thought maxed out as an AHL guy. Real good AHL guy. And now we're finding uses for him. Nick Petan, let's throw into the conversation. There's a guy who I thought maxed out as an exceptional AHL player. We're talking every year AHL All-Star game. They found a use for him in their top 12. They found a use for him as a regular
when they needed to
on the fourth line. When they needed to.
Like who knows when Thornton and Robertson are back and Simmons is back, Petan's not playing.
Probably not. No.
But
almost definitely
has been a useful player in the meantime. If there's anybody that's played their way in, and Jesse, I know you're about to say something. I just want to throw a name out there for you guys. Travis Boyd.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. He did miss a gimme last night, but yeah, so good. I never even really, I knew of him, but I didn't know he was like that.
Jesse, what did you want to say?
And yeah, just Nick Petan not making the lineup is a good thing, right? Because that means we have enough forwards to cover that depth, and that's what the Leafs should be at. It shouldn't be where we need Nick Petan to play some serious minutes. It should be like, no, we got Thornton and Simmons and the rest of them to fill those holes.
And this is why you have him, by the way. You have him for this situation. It's just in recent years, they were like ridiculously healthy, and that put the team in a situation that made it look like Josh Levo was literally in prison. But like this year, thank goodness they have all these guys, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also Josh Levo was going to play over Mike Babcock's dead body. Let's be honest.
Oh, unbelievable.
There's another guy where you're like, man, we could get 15 goals out of that guy. Like, you know, who would you rather have, Levo or VC at this point?
And you know what? Let's throw another name in there because Levo, I remember, could not get into the lineup. And I want to say it was a game against Boston because I was there. Yes, this was the Boston game where Patrick Marleau scored the overtime winner. And the Leafs had the lead, and Levo completely goofs up at some point during the game, and Boston scores, I think, to tie it. And that guy got sent to Madagascar because he couldn't get into the lineup, finally gets in the lineup, and then he makes a mistake. And that was basically it. Pierre Engvall is the new that guy, whatever that is. But he's getting opportunities, and he's continuing to get opportunities. And you're seeing him change his game up a bit. He took that stupid penalty, that high stick penalty, and I got annoyed. It's his third penalty in 5 games for a guy who's struggling to stick in the lineup. That's not good enough. But he's very clearly like, all right, I'm in the bottom 6. I got to do bottom 6 things. And he threw a couple big hits that I didn't even know he was capable of. So it's amazing to see, teamwork on a team, and it's weirdly helpful.
Yeah.
Weirdly helpful.
Well, because you have a role to play and play that role. Now, the objectively, Montreal played a better game last night, I think, overall. But some of the stats, yeah, in the first for sure. But as Arpon Basu pointed out in The Athletic, and Eric Engels, I think, pointed out as well, they have an urgency issue. And it's so funny to see another team with an urgency issue, because that has literally been the Leafs. It's been tattooed on their forehead. Urgency. And I could say, coming out of the start of last night's game, that's where the Leafs were at. No urgency. But what's amazing about the Toronto Maple Leafs this year is their ability to kind of go in and go, okay, we're going to win it now. And that's something we've never seen before.
And shut her down and lock her down, except for Morgan Rielly temporarily losing his mind for some reason. I don't know.
The way at the end of the game was unbelievable. It was like flashbacks to Jake Gardner, man. It really was.
Dude, like what I said in the LFR today is, and this is a little bit of broadcasting there, kids, you never want to be the first person the camera pans to after you get scored on. Because
that's a really good point.
It's Mark Askin, whoever the director is in the truck, they're like, him. Where's the Morgan Rielly cam? Right there. So I felt bad for him there. But Sheldon Keefe after the game, I guess sort of stuck up for his guys, because I think he knew. I don't know what metric you're talking about, Adam, where people said the Habs outplayed them.
Oh, they have those games that are like hot, like between the two teams.
The deserve to win-o-meter.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I can't tell you how good the Leafs scoring chances were, and let's be honest, the 3 that they did score, I would not expect to get 3 of those goals in a game against Carey Price very often, but they did. But no, Sheldon Keefe after the game said the Leafs really limited the scoring chances for the Montreal Canadiens, and they did. How many truly dangerous situations? Like Freddie's got to have the first one, in my opinion. It's a scoring chance. The second goal is obviously a scoring chance. It was a complete disaster in front, but like other than that, I can't really think of many. Like situations where Freddie had to save his team's ass. You know what I mean? And he hasn't really had to do that very much this season. The volume is like the past 2 games, he's had a heavier workload than his opponent in net.
Yep.
But the amount of times he really had to come up big, pretty safe game.